Listen up, Cowboys Nation. Before you scroll past this video, I need 60 seconds of your time because what I'm about to break down could completely change how you see Dallas's path to the Super Bowl this season. Joey Bosa to the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy's revenge game in Pittsburgh, Dak Prescott getting disrespected again on the top 100 list. Yeah, we're covering all of that and so much more. So smash that subscribe button right now, hit the notification bell, and stick with me because this is going to be one wild ride through everything happening in Big D. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. All right, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe because we bring you the realest Cowboys analysis without all the fluff and nonsense. Today, we're diving deep into something that has the entire football world talking, and it all starts with what I'm calling the Mike McCarthy Revenge Tour. Yeah, you heard that right. McCarthy is back in the league after taking a year off, but here's the twist. He's not wearing silver and blue anymore. He's coaching the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that creates one of the most fascinating storylines heading into this season. So here's the question everybody's asking right now. Which team is going to have more wins this year, McCarthy's new squad in Pittsburgh or his old team in Dallas? The odds makers actually have the Cowboys favored, but when you really break down what's happening with both franchises, this comparison gets way more interesting than people realize. Let's start with Pittsburgh because what the Steelers did this offseason is absolutely worth paying attention to. They went out and addressed their biggest weakness from last year, and that was the lack of weapons around their offense. Think about it. They had DK Metcalf getting doubled every single play. And after him, there was basically nothing. Calvin Austin was supposed to be that number 2 receiver, but let's be real, he's not a legitimate threat that opposing defenses lose sleep over. But now everything has changed. The Steelers brought in Michael Pittman Jr., which gives them a true 1-2 punch on the outside. You've got Metcalf drawing safety help on one side and Pittman working in space on the other, and that completely transforms what the offense can do. Then they used a second-round pick on Jeremy Bernard, who's this talented slot receiver that people are sleeping on big time. This kid can play immediately, and when you add him into the mix with those two outside guys, suddenly Pittsburgh has an offense that can actually move the football and create mismatches. That's a massive upgrade from where they were just a few months ago. And here's where it gets romantic for football fans. You've got Mike McCarthy reuniting with Aaron Rodgers for potentially one last championship run. I know some people are rolling their eyes at that. But think about the storyline here. These two won a Super Bowl together in Green Bay. They had years of success, and now they're back together when everybody counted them out. It's like that scene from Tombstone with Wyatt Earp and his crew making one final stand. There's something special brewing in Pittsburgh, and if those pieces come together the right way, if they stay healthy, if the chemistry clicks, this team could absolutely shock people. Now let's flip over to Dallas because the conversation around the Cowboys is completely different, but equally fascinating. The question isn't whether Dallas has talent. Everybody knows they're loaded on offense. The real question is whether this defense can finally step up and be at least average because that's all they need to be for this team to become a legitimate Super Bowl threat. Last year, the Cowboys had one of the worst defenses in the entire league. And that's not an exaggeration. That's just facts. They couldn't stop anybody when it mattered. They got gashed in the run game, and quarterbacks picked them apart through the air. But if Dallas can get that defense to just be okay, to be middle of the pack, to not actively lose games, then watch out because the offense is championship caliber right now. Look at the moves they made. They drafted Malachi Lawrence, who's an absolute monster up front. They grabbed Caleb Downs, who brings playmaking ability to the secondary. They brought in Christian Parker as the new defensive coordinator, and he's got a completely different philosophy than what they've been running. This isn't about hoping for miracles. This is about smart additions that address specific weaknesses. And when you combine that with what's already there on offense, you've got something really dangerous taking shape. The offense led by Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and that entire unit might legitimately be the best in the NFC East. And honestly, it might be one of the best in the entire conference. Think about the 8 units in the NFC East when you break down offense and defense for all four teams. Dallas's offense stacks up against anybody. They can score on anyone. They've got weapons everywhere. And when they're clicking, they're virtually unstoppable. So the real debate becomes whether Pittsburgh or Dallas wins more games this season. And honestly, I lean toward the Cowboys, and here's why. When you look at the AFC North, Pittsburgh is walking into a buzzsaw. Baltimore is loaded and coming off another strong season. Cincinnati still has Joe Burrow and explosive playmakers. Even Cleveland has pieces that can make life difficult. Pittsburgh is probably the third best team in that division right now, which means they're fighting for a wild card spot and hoping things break their way. Dallas, on the other hand, has a legitimate path to winning the NFC East outright. Yeah, Philadelphia is tough, Washington made moves, and the Giants are always lurking, but the Cowboys have the roster to control their own destiny. They're not hoping for chaos, they're creating it. And if that defense can be even a little bit better than last year, if guys stay healthy, if the chemistry builds the way it should, then Dallas isn't just competing for a division title, they're positioning themselves for a deep playoff run. That's the difference. Pittsburgh needs everything to go perfect. Dallas just needs to be solid and let their talent take over. But here's where it gets uncomfortable for Cowboys fans, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Trust is a major issue. This franchise hasn't been to a conference championship game in over 30 years. 30 years? That's an entire generation of fans who have never seen this team play in an NFC title game. Dak Prescott is entering his 11th season, and while he's been fantastic in the regular season, the playoff struggles are real. Year after year, something trips up this team when January rolls around. Maybe it's coaching decisions, maybe it's untimely turnovers, maybe it's just bad luck, but the results speak for themselves. Until Dallas actually breaks through and wins in the playoffs, it's really hard to fully trust them no matter how good they look on paper. The offense is elite, no question about that. Dak can sling it, CeeDee is a superstar, the offensive line is solid, and they've got playmakers at every level. But football isn't played on paper, it's played on the field when the pressure is highest and the margin for error disappears. That's where the Cowboys have faltered repeatedly. And that's why, even though I believe in the talent, I understand the skepticism. Trusting Dallas to make a Super Bowl run at this point requires ignoring a lot of history. And for some fans, that's just too much to ask. They need to see it happen before they believe it's possible. Now let's talk about something that's been driving me absolutely crazy, and that's the disrespect Dak Prescott keeps getting. Seriously, I want someone to explain to me why Dak is constantly getting hated on when all he does is win games and put up numbers. The top 100 players list came out, and Dak is sitting at 43. 43? Are you kidding me right now? This is a franchise quarterback who, when healthy, gives the Cowboys a chance to win every single week. He's accurate, he's tough, he makes plays with his arm and his legs, and he's one of the most consistent performers in the league, yet somehow he's ranked below guys who haven't accomplished half of what he has. I genuinely think a lot of the Dak hate comes from the fact that he plays for the Cowboys. Dallas is the most polarizing team in sports. People either love them or hate them. There's no in between. And because of that, Dak gets judged differently than other quarterbacks. If he was on a small market team putting up these same stats, people would be calling him underrated and praising his consistency. But because he's in Dallas, because the expectations are Super Bowl or bust, every mistake gets magnified and every success gets downplayed. It's not fair. But that's the reality of playing quarterback for America's team. The argument against Dak always comes back to the playoffs, and I get it. His playoff record isn't great. He hasn't had that signature postseason run that changes the narrative. But let's be honest about something. Football is a team sport. Dak doesn't play defense. He doesn't call the plays on third and long when the other team is trying to ice the game. He doesn't control whether his receivers drop passes or whether the offensive line holds up under pressure. Putting all the blame on one guy, especially when that guy has been playing at a high level for years, is just lazy analysis. Dak deserves better than 43 on that list. And if you disagree, I want you to name 42 players who are definitively more valuable than him right now. I'll wait. And while we're talking about that list, let's give some love to the other Cowboys who made it. CeeDee Lamb is on there, and rightfully so because he's one of the most dynamic receivers in football. George Pickens is on there too, although he ended up in Pittsburgh, and that dude has game-changing ability when he's locked in. Quinnen Williams made the cut after Dallas brought him in to anchor that defensive line, and he's already said publicly that he needs to play better this year. I respect that accountability. Then you've got guys like Tyron Smith, the versatile offensive lineman who can play tackle or guard at a high level. These are difference makers, and having them on the roster is exactly why Dallas can compete with anybody. But I do think the list missed a few guys who deserved recognition. Javonte Williams, for example, brought a lot to the table last year. Maybe he's not top 100 yet, but he's knocking on the door. And if he takes another step forward this season, he's going to force his way into that conversation. The depth Dallas has built is real. And it's not just about the stars at the top. It's about having quality players at every position who can step up when their number is called. That's how you win in January. That's how you survive the grind of a 17-game season and still have gas in the tank when it matters most. Now let's shift gears and talk about the free agent market, because there are still some massive names out there, and one of them is generating a ton of buzz around Dallas. Joey Bosa is sitting there unsigned, and people are starting to wonder if the Cowboys should make a run at him. Before I get into whether that makes sense, let me be very clear about something. Joey Bosa to Dallas is not official. It's not confirmed, and nobody should treat this like a done deal. But as a potential move, as a possibility, this is exactly the kind of name that makes you stop and think, wait a minute, that could actually be really dangerous for the rest of the league. Bosa is coming off a season in Buffalo where he had 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. That's real production. That's a veteran pass rusher who still knows how to affect the football and create havoc in the backfield. Yes, he's got injury concerns. Yes, he's not the same guy he was 5 or 6 years ago. But here's the thing. Dallas doesn't need him to be that guy. They don't need him playing 70 snaps a game and carrying the entire defense. They need him to be a closer, a third down specialist, a red zone hunter who comes in at the biggest moments and makes quarterbacks uncomfortable. That's where Bosa still has tremendous value. Imagine this. It's 3rd and 8. The opposing offense needs to convert to keep the drive alive. The tackle is tired, the quarterback is expecting a standard rush, and then Bosa lines up on the edge with that wide alignment, eyes locked in, hands ready to strike. The ball is snapped, he attacks, the pocket collapses, and suddenly the quarterback is rushing his throw before the route even develops. That's how you win football games. That's how you create turnovers. That's how you put your offense in position to take over. A veteran pass rusher who understands leverage, hand usage, and how to finish plays can elevate an entire defense. And that's what Bosa brings to the table if Dallas uses him correctly. The key word there is correctly. This cannot be an emotional signing just because his name is famous and the jersey would look cool. Dallas has to be smart about this. Short-term deal, incentives based on performance and games played, a clearly defined role that protects his body and maximizes his impact. Let him hunt on 3rd downs. Let him terrorize quarterbacks in the red zone. Let him be fresh when everyone else is exhausted. That's how you turn risk into reward. That's how you take a veteran with question marks and turn him into a weapon instead of a liability. And don't sleep on the leadership aspect either. Bosa has faced elite tackles his entire career. He's rushed against the best quarterbacks in the league. He's played in huge games with massive pressure. A younger defensive room can learn from that experience, how to set up a blocker, how to read an offensive line's tendencies, how to finish when the quarterback tries to escape. Those details matter. especially in tight games where one play decides everything. Bringing in a guy like Bosa isn't just about sacks, it's about raising the standard and showing the rest of the defense what it takes to win at the highest level. Now think about how the NFC East would react if Dallas pulled this off. Philadelphia would have to game plan differently, knowing there's another veteran edge rusher in the mix. Washington would have to adjust their protection schemes. New York would have to find answers before the game even kicks off. That's the power of a name like Joey Bosa. Even if he's not playing every snap, his presence forces opponents to make decisions. And every decision they make to account for him opens up opportunities for someone else. That's football chess. That's how you create favorable matchups and put your players in position to dominate. So here's my bottom line on the Bosa situation. Should Dallas do it? If the price is right, absolutely. If the medicals check out and he's willing to embrace a situational role, this could be a sneaky, brilliant move. The Cowboys don't need reckless spending or desperate moves. They need calculated aggression. They need to add pieces that make sense within the bigger picture. A veteran closer who can disrupt quarterbacks, force fumbles, and make the NFC East uncomfortable every single week fits that description perfectly. This isn't about nostalgia or hoping he turns back the clock. This is about using a proven player in the right way to maximize what Dallas already has on defense. And let's zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture here. The Cowboys are in a championship window right now. Dak is in his prime. CD is a superstar. The offensive line is solid. The defense is adding talent. This is the time to be aggressive, not conservative. This is the time to take calculated risks and add veterans who know how to win. Waiting around and hoping young guys develop isn't good enough when you've got a roster this talented. You have to strike while the iron is hot. And for Dallas, the iron is scorching right now. The NFC is wide open this year. Yeah, San Francisco's good. Philly is tough. Detroit made noise last season, but there's no team that feels unbeatable. There's no juggernaut that makes you think, well, we're just playing for second place. The door is open for a team like Dallas to crash through and make a deep run, but only if they maximize every advantage and don't leave opportunities on the table. That means being aggressive in free agency, hitting on draft picks, staying healthy, and playing with an edge that has been missing in recent years. Joey Bosa, even at this stage of his career, can help provide that edge. Let me also address the elephant in the room, which is the injury history. Yes, Bosa has missed games. Yes, his body has taken a beating over the years, but that's exactly why a team like Dallas makes sense for him at this point in his career. He doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to carry a franchise. He can come in, play a role, stay fresh, and be a nightmare in key situations. If the Cowboys structure the deal intelligently with incentives tied to availability and production, then the risk becomes manageable. You're not gambling the future of the franchise. You're adding a proven veteran who still has something left in the tank. That's smart team building. And let's talk about what this does for the locker room. Bringing in a player of Bosa's caliber sends a message to everyone on that roster. It says, we're not here to rebuild or wait for the future. We're here to win right now. It tells the young guys that the standard is excellence and anything less is unacceptable. It shows the veterans that management is committed to putting the best possible team on the field. Those intangibles matter. Culture and mentality don't show up in the box score, but they absolutely influence outcomes when games get tight and adversity hits. Dallas needs more of that championship mentality, and Bosa brings it. Now, I want to hear from you, Cowboys Nation. Would you bring Joey Bosa to Dallas as a veteran pass rush weapon? Or do you think the injury concerns are too much to overcome? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I read every single one, and I love hearing what you all think about these moves. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, share this video with your fellow Cowboys fans, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're bringing you the realest analysis, the deepest dives, and the most honest takes on everything happening in Dallas, and you don't want to miss a single upload. Before we wrap up, let me leave you with this final thought. The Cowboys are at a crossroads right now. They can play it safe, stick with what they have, and hope everything clicks. Or they can be aggressive, add impact players, and go all in on this championship window. History shows that the teams who win it all are the ones who take smart risks and maximize their opportunities. Dallas has the talent, they have the resources, and they have the motivation. Now it's time to see if they have the guts to make the moves that can push them over the top. Joey Bosa might be one of those moves, and if it happens, the entire NFC should be on notice because this Cowboys defense is about to get a whole lot nastier. All right, Cowboys Nation, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure you stick around because we've got more content coming your way all week long. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, drop a comment, and let's keep this conversation going. The star is rising, the roster is loaded, and this season is going to be one for the ages. Let's ride, Cowboys fans. Let's ride.